Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this, you're out on the water on a remarkably calm February day in 1948. The location? The Strait of Malacca. Yeah, that's the exact same stretch of water where MH370 would just vanish decades later. The weather is absolutely perfect, the sea is quiet, but that tranquility is about to be completely shattered by one of the most terrifying, unsolved maritime mysteries in human history. We're talking about the chilling case of the SS Orang Medan. So, out of the blue, several ships in the area, including an American merchant vessel called the Silver Star, intercept a frantic distress signal. It's coming through in Morse code, which, is highly reliable for cutting through all that atmospheric static over vast distances. But the message itself? It is pure nightmare fuel. It translates to SOS, 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 Orang Medan, second officer dead, crew members dead, and then there's this terrifyingly long silence. Finally, the transmission ends with just two stark, chilling words. I die. After that, absolute radio silence.
The captain of the Silver Star doesn't even hesitate. He immediately alters course, rushing straight to those coordinates. And when they finally arrive after a few hours of sailing, they spot the SS Orang Medan. Looking through the binoculars, honestly, it looks perfectly fine. The ship is completely intact, just floating peacefully right there on the calm water. There are no signs of a crash, no holes in the hull, nothing. But oddly enough, even though it's a steamship, there is absolutely zero smoke coming from its chimneys. It's just eerily quiet. The Silver Star's captain tries blowing the horn, he gets on the loudspeaker, but the only thing he gets back is the sound of the ocean waves. Knowing they need answers, a rescue team is deployed to board the silent vessel.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer horror of what they found. As the men step onto the freezing cold deck of the Orang Medan, they are greeted by absolute devastation. The captain, dead at his post. The officers on the bridge, completely lifeless. Even the ship's dog is dead, frozen stiff in an aggressive posture, like it was snarling at some invisible phantom. And when they finally reach the radio room, they find the operator dead at his key. His fingers were literally still resting on the exact buttons he used to send out that chilling final I die message. Every single living creature aboard is dead. But it wasn't just that they were dead, it was how they looked. The crew's bodies were rigidly frozen in these completely unnatural positions. Their eyes were wide open, just staring off into the void, mouths agape in what looked like silent, agonizing screams. Many of them actually had their arms reaching out in front of them as if they were frantically trying to push away some invisible terror. The rescue team reported feeling this overwhelming, heavy presence in the air. The sheer panic etched onto the crew's faces made it look like they were staring directly at something unimaginably horrifying right before they perished. Which leads us to a really jarring twist. Where were the physical wounds? Despite the grotesque, violent expressions of absolute terror frozen onto the faces of every single crew member, the boarding party couldn't find a single drop of blood. None. There were no scratches, no bruises, no bullet holes, and zero signs of any physical struggle or combat. Whatever wiped out this entire ship did so without leaving a single physical mark on anyone's body. Confused and frankly terrified, the rescue team decided their best option was to attach tow lines and drag the Orang Medan to the nearest port so they could do a full investigation. But literally the moment they started securing those ropes, thick smoke began pouring out of the lower decks, specifically cargo hold number 4. And that smoke rapidly turned into a raging fire. Realizing the immediate danger, the Silver Star's crew abandoned the tow lines, scrambled back into their small boats, and rowed for their absolute lives. Just as they reached the safety of their own ship, a massive, catastrophic explosion ripped right through the Orang Medan. The blast was so powerful it blew the ship completely apart, sending it and all of its dark secrets straight to the bottom of the ocean. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the paper trail. Because the ship sank so completely and left zero physical evidence, a lot of skeptics claim the whole thing was just a fabricated myth. And it's true. The Orang Medan wasn't even listed in Lloyd's shipping register, which is the official record for global vessels. But a paper trail does exist, and the plot definitely thickens here. In 1954, a Dutch newspaper published an article with interviews from former crew members. They claimed the ship was completely real, but it was intentionally kept off the books because it was being used for highly illegal smuggling. And it gets even wilder. In 2003, the CIA declassified a document from 1958. It was a letter directly discussing the Orang Medan tragedy, suggesting that solving this specific mystery could actually explain a whole host of other maritime and aviation disappearances. So, what exactly was on that ship? Let's logically break down the top theories based on the evidence we actually have.
Remember, this was right after World War II, so it was a time when massive amounts of deadly illicit materials were being moved around in secret. First up, we've got potassium cyanide. Now, if seawater leaked into a cargo hold full of potassium cyanide, it creates a highly toxic, suffocating gas. This perfectly explains the sudden asphyxiation, the zero physical wounds, and those expressions of sheer panic as the crew desperately gasped for air. Second theory, nitroglycerin. This is a highly unstable explosive. If it wasn't stored safely, it could easily detonate all on its own, which completely accounts for that sudden, massive explosion that erased the ship. Both of these chemicals actually align perfectly with the physical evidence reported by the Silver Star's rescue team.
Let's move to and see how this builds into an even darker historical context involving Unit 731. If you're not familiar, this was a covert biological and chemical warfare research unit of the Imperial Japanese Army. They were infamous for conducting some truly lethal human experiments. After Japan lost the war, the US secretly absorbed a lot of these scientists and their research. So the prominent theory here is that the Orang Medan was acting as a black ops transport, secretly smuggling Unit 731's terrifying chemical or biological weapons. A leak in that kind of illicit cargo wouldn't just silently wipe out the crew. It would also explain exactly why the ship was unregistered, completely unacknowledged, and basically left to sink without any sort of proper public investigation. So, the crucial point is this. We have a ghost ship filled with a crew frozen in absolute woundless terror. A sudden, massive explosion that just conveniently erased every single shred of physical evidence, followed by decades of classified government whispers. Was it just a tragic accident involving smuggled industrial chemicals? Was it a botched black ops transport covering up the darkest secrets of World War II? Or did the crew of the Orang Medan truly encounter something else entirely in those waters? What terrifying secret truly lies buried in the depths of the Strait of Malacca? The physical evidence might be resting at the bottom of the ocean, but this story absolutely refuses to sink. What do you think happened? Let that marinate for a second.